No, don't rush it, please. Don't rush it. We're not This thing you were doing in the morning with the watch, how do you know, like the timing? You keep it
Idea comes.
So
if it is little less, I just still resisting for me to stay.
That was very interesting for me to see.
Yeah, right. So if it is little less, I just still resisting for me to stay.
That was very interesting for me to see.
Yeah, right. It's not a question of a change of physiology. It may be in the minds of the others, but for a practitioner, these things doesn't count at all. See, when the yogis say that any comfortable pose is an asana, though Patanjali has explained differently. Just sitting in crossed legs alone is yoga. If I take that definition, whether I do Shirshasana, whether I do Sarvangasana, whether I do Kapotasana or Natarajasana, whatever it may be, what comfort one feels in Siddhasana or Padmasana because you are sitting on the floor comfortably. I wanted to get that feeling in the most complicated poses, maintaining the serenity of the mind, or how to introvert the mind in these hard poses. Because there is a pressure on one side of the body. There is a pressure on the mind.
I am asking a very simplistic question. Do we feel better as human beings when we sit on the ground because we are near the earth?
I'm a bhaktan by nature. We have only two mothers. One mother who gave birth, the other mother on whom we rest our life, day and night. So naturally, is it not auspicious to be in contact with the Mother Earth, which is not considered as Prakriti, the Prakriti Shakti? And it has got its own magnetism. The earth has certain powers. By being in contact with Mother Earth, we draw that energy where the Prakriti of the nature is made up of 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air and ether, and they have the atomic qualities in them: sound, touch, shape, taste, odor. So the closer you are to the Mother Earth, the closer you understand these the qualities of the nature and the nature of themselves.
One thing which occurred to me is that to understand the body as you do, it's not at only one level, like a doctor. When he dissects, he sees something and he has to repair it. But a sculptor like Michelangelo saw the body in many layers of muscles for an expression of the energy. But yoga is much beyond that. What you have seen is beyond just the muscular thing or the physical parts of the body. What have you actually seen, which we can understand how a normal person, or apparently normal looking person like you, actually gone about understanding?
See, there are cognizable things and non-cognizable things in all human beings. One advantage is man has been given the power of intelligence, which the other creatures haven't got it. So this intellectual quality which has been given to us as a gift of God, it has a discriminative power. And as it has got that discriminative power, it can analyze, it can go to the depth of the cause of reactions, and therefore the practice of yoga takes us to the inner body and inner mind, which I don't think you will get in any growth of science. Because what is cognizable has been explained.
What about art, music, for example?
To some extent, the yoga is also an art, though it has got a science. Even music is an art, music has a science. Sculpture is an art, it has a science. So artistic side is different, scientific side is different. The difference is art is an experiential subject. Science is an experimental subject. So they can experiment what is cognizable. But an artist goes beyond the cognizable state. And that's why this intelligence has to do with the element of air. There's a connection between intelligence and air. Because these 5 elements have got a tremendous bearing. And the other one is the element of ether. The element of ether is space. It may contract, it may expand. Thus, this extension and expansion of the inner body, which is not the element of earth, not the element of air, and not the element of water or fire, because these 3 are cognizable. That is why you will find these 3 subjects: the skeletal body, the physiological body, organic body, and the vital body, which is also an organic body, or we call it pranamaya sharira, then mind. Up to now, up to this, the science has experimented a great deal and surveyed and presented us. But the other 2 aspects.
Just interrupt before we go to the mind at the higher level. You say yoga has experimented greatly. Would you say it has experimented the most?
Yes.
Perhaps in...
This is the only subjective one. Music is not subjective. See, the man who plays, there are 2 types. When he practices himself, an artist, a musician, I say he is completely divine. But when he comes to a platform, because that's his profession, I have not seen a singer singing for himself. He has to make a living. I have also done yoga as an artist, and I have to also make a living. But my way of living is for existence only in order to push yoga. For them it is to get
the existence.
The other...
For them it is
yes,
the
they have to go
reason for
beyond.
existence.
They have to make money, they have to make fame, name. In yoga it's very difficult to get name, fame or money. So there is a handicap in this art. So when they come to the platform, the ego comes. That I have to play very well to conquer these people. But in yoga, it's a very difficult subject. It's subjective. When I am doing, for example, Vushchikasana, the scorpion pose, do you mean to say it is going to attract the public for clapping that it is something? It doesn't. But the person who does experiences the intelligence flowing, in which direction is flowing in the body, where the space is created, where the space is contracted. So these are the two other subtle elemental elements and their qualities, he studies in asanas, whereas in music, except the vibration of the sound,
That moment, there is no greater reward.
there is nothing. But here it's not like that, whether you practice or you don't practice. That sensitivity of intelligence, which has been built up by a certain discipline, and through that discipline, he brings out on himself and on those who want to learn the subject, he wants to imprint that there is something beyond, so that the infinite is touched. Because the element of ether is, though it is very subtle, it is infinite. The sky cannot be touched, though it is a blue in color. It's open. As there is an open place outside, there is also an empty place in each body. So that's why the yogi interpenetrates, interviews his senses of perception, action, mind, intelligence, to interpenetrate, to trace that space from which everything sprouts. And that is the difference.
So, would I say that the answer to my question, how did you understand the human body?
My friend, this is a difficult question to answer, because the experiencing subject is very difficult to express.
But it's the curiosity of
No, I'll tell you, probably you have seen that there are about nearly 600 photographs here. A single man doing. When I am doing, how much my intelligence has penetrated in various positioning of the body. As I said, it's an experiential subject. If I am doing Trikonasana, if I do on the right side, the right lung is empty, the left lung is full. But when I do the other side, it takes a reverse motion, reverse action. Then as an intelligent person, I have to study why this took place. Was I empty on that side when I did on the right side? The right side was empty, left side was full. When I did on the left side was empty, right side was full. Studying this, I have to understand and practice again that without losing that emptiness, what the fullness I feel on the left side while I am doing on the right side, can I bring that same sense of fullness where there is emptiness? So how much attention is to be given?
So the mind is where it comes in.
Yes.
Yes.
So mind has to be totally, has to observe.
So this is the reason for the intelligence being alert
Yes.
to the changes.
And intelligence is in the dark cave. And the moment your skin, you can see only the skin and the rib by feel. But beyond that, it's just like a cave. The body is like caves.
Unknown, uncharted territories.
So the moment you enter in one cave after the other, you need a lot of strong lights. In the beginning you may not need those lights, but later you need strong lights in order to see what this black area contains. So naturally the intelligence has to have a beacon of light to penetrate inside the body, and this is what these various asanas have taught me. For example, you said about Michelangelo. He had the perception. He did a wonderful work. But if you observe, there are some abnormalities in the presentations too. So, knowing that here is a great artist who did with his imagination, where certain muscles are overshown beyond a structure of a human frame. So the yogi says that as Michelangelo filled the external body to such an extent to show the grace, the power, so the yogi said, can I use the same power and express without exhibitionism. So the internal power, the internal strength, the internal build-up, the yogi has taken. So he completes the picture of Michelangelo by attending to the external one and the internal one in a real life.
So it is really consolidating the forces of energy which a human body has.
One is consolidating of energy, and another is exactly where the energy is not moving, where it is decaying. The body do decay. So when that decays, that means the energy is not flowing there. So it's a drag. Life is a drag on life itself. So when we practice these various movements, using the wall, using the intelligence as a wall, and the body as a painting liquid, how the intelligence has to be, the intelligence wall of the human being, from the head to the foot, how he has to apply the paint in such a way that the intelligence is transparent.
To oneself or to others as well?
First oneself, it's not for others. So unless he knows how the intelligence flows, how can he express for the public?
So are you also a believer that if you are understanding, if you can understand yourself, others understand?
Yes, yoga is a subjective art and subjective science, subjective philosophy. Art is called kala, science is called vijnana, and the philosophy of a human being is the way of making use of life to such an extent that the subjective quality of the body, the subjective quality of the intelligence, and the subjective quality of the very core reflects like in a crystal clear stance. And that's what
this is how
yoga teaches.
So this is how, oh I see, not to brush against the equipment. Can you just, so once,
So as I said, that this being subjective art, subjective science, subjective philosophies, science is called vijnana and philosophy is called pragyana, means coming from subjective inner voice, from the inner feelings. And yoga trains the body, the mind, the intelligence, the consciousness and the core to such an extent that it is as clean as a reflecting mirror. And all these human-made vehicles, man-made vehicles, reflect in a clear, crystal clear state without any refractions. And that's the beauty of yoga, that reflection is without refractions. But in science, there may be reflections, may not be true today, which they may have to change. So reflections are there. But in this subject, when once you go on continuing discipline, when you reach that state, the stability, I don't think there is possible to any change. That's why Patanjali speaks of 4 dimensions of intelligence. The one is, which is also needed for an artist, direct perception, imagination, or depending on the traditional texts, whether it is music, whether it is science, whether it is philosophy or whatever it may be, to go to the original books to find out what insight they had thrown.
And you did that?
No, I'm coming. So yoga also needs all these things in the beginning. The direct perception is the misconceptions to many people, because this may be from the gates of knowledge, the sense of perception, eye, ears, nose, tongue, and so on and so forth. It may be by the mind, and mind is also not stable. So the knowledge which goes from the mind may appear stable, but one may think, I'm wrong, I think I should do the other way. That's why there is an intelligence which flushes the mind in order to know whether the reflection is going to be permanent.
Can I clarify that for myself? The mind has two sides to it, I feel. One is a stable side. When you decide something, there's always a side which questions you. And what you're saying is yoga brings about some cohesion, helps in.
They bring then they have to study through the text what feeling I have got, has it been felt by others. So you go on comparing your subjective experiences through inference or through books or through perceptions. Then the fourth dimension is most important, where Patanjali says, and which is my experiences, because as you asked me the question, it comes to that only. He says, by the intense practice of any leaf of yoga, the fourth dimension of intelligence, known as Rutambara Tatra Prajna. The Rutambara means truth bearing, which is eternal, which cannot be changed. So that is the fourth dimension of intelligence, which the yogic practitioner reaches that state. And when that state he reaches, there is no oscillation at all. And when non-oscillation of intelligence takes place, then creativity begins from then on, because it does not depend on inferences, it does not depend upon direct actions, perceptions, or referring to the books. Because this special knowledge makes him to study deeper and deeper, and the intuitive knowledge comes from within, from the core, through which he builds up. And that's why we can penetrate from the core, or you can penetrate using the various sheets of the man to reach the core. And when that state is reached, then from the core he practices, not by fragmenting the man's sheets into various angles. I should do from my leg, I should do. So he looks, in the beginning, he has to fragment, because the intelligence cannot go at one stretch to each and every part. But when he masters, when this knowledge comes, this seasoned intelligence, which does not oscillate at all, when that sets in him,
Pure synchronization.
then whatever process he does, he has to see, like the water when it reaches the sea, the river, when it goes near the sea, it spreads very wide. So his intelligence spreads very wide in his body, not just we think intelligence is vertical. But in yoga, it has got the other dimension where it spreads wider and wider and engulfs the entire body before it comes, as the river joins the sea. Here he is one with the core because of the width he creates. That is why I said element of ether plays a great role in the practice of asanas and pranayama.
So the word intelligence takes on a different air of meaning. Right.
And that he explains also in the third chapter, that each one has got, the body has its own character, mind has its own character, intelligence has its own character. The yogi gave practices to change these characters into a qualitative characters. He gives a new color, new dimension through yoga. And through these dimensions, he reaches a stable state, which I said before, Sthirasukam Asana. It's easy to explain, but this nobody understands. That the character of the body, character of the mind, character of the intelligence are so different to each other. He cultivates and gives a color, qualitatively a new color, and develops a steadiness, stability in all these sheets of the man. And he tries to maintain that so that the stability may not fade at all.
How do you convey this to 4 million of your students? Because you have to actually interact with many thousands at a time. It is not with one person or two persons in the family or friends. It is many more.
It's good. It's true that the intelligence is not the same in all individuals. They differ. And some have the gross intelligence, some have the subtle intelligence, some must be having the subtlest and finest of intelligence. Fortunately, God gave me this chance to meet the gross intellectuals as well as subtle of the subtlest intellectuals. So I could learn.
There was a comparison between the best and the...
So I could learn by meeting these people. Then even it gave me a thought that a gross intellectual man may be a gross, but he does not know what to see, what not to see, what to feel, what not to feel. But a subtlest of the subtle, subtlest of the subtlest, like Krishnamurti and others to whom I taught. Even subjectively, I have noticed that they could not find the weaknesses in their own bodies, in their own minds.
They could not hear their bodies.
They could not hear their bodies. So naturally, I thought that how yoga is a subject which touches to everyone by this, what they call filtering of the intelligence, moment to moment. So this filtering of the intelligence, the gross intelligence to be filtered. So we gross intellectuals, when they come, we give them mild instructions, what they can cognize, what they can understand. So from that, then we go to the subtle explanations or the subtle explanations. When they reach their subtle level, then we go to the subtlest explanations. If what I taught like Jayaprakash Narayan or Minion or Krishnamurti, I cannot teach the ordinary people because they are already trained, disciplined. They have disciplined their body, they have disciplined their minds, their senses and all. So the approach has to vary because from which level I have to teach them is quite different to the level of the gross who come, because they have seen what a gross person has not seen. So naturally, we have to tackle or tap them from that area, so that to say that yoga can still open the gates for intelligence to further penetrate.
What are the kinds of sensitivities which you have seen really respond to your level of understanding?
Subjectively, it's rather very difficult, because it's very easy to concentrate on things outside oneself. But here, the concentration is inside, which has no form at all. As I said before, there are dark caves. So to penetrate these dark holes in the body is not so easy. And when I use the word sensitivity, the intelligence should be that a live coal, when covered with ash, you think it is ash. The moment you just touch, your fingers get burnt, is it not? So that type of intellectual intelligence should have that sensitivity, like a live wire or like a live fire coal covered with ash. When you touch, how soon the skin reacts. This way, the intellectual intelligence is to react. And that sensitivity is the subtlest of sensitivity because it's subjective. Hence it takes time. But at the same time I say it is possible, as one goes on practicing it is possible to develop that sensitivity.
You have not met anybody in your lifetime with whom
I have
you could
not,
really
no,
converse?
unfortunately, I have not come across even one person who has attempted, even though they call it physical exercises, but they do not understand that I am using their body as an instrument to sharpen the intelligence. That nobody understands. As I said, unfortunately, I had not even one colleague who worked like me. And naturally there is no room or avenue for me to exchange my views with others, to find out whether what I am getting others are getting or not. They are only satisfied with the mechanical presentation of their poses. But whereas in my mind, I wanted to electrify each and every part of my body in that pose, whatever the pose may be, that not one part should be neglected. And I didn't get anyone. So there is a setback in my case.
Would you say that's the sorrow of your life?
Well, I had to accept it. But today I see that I have trained thousands and thousands of students. There is a hope in the future for comparative study, so that by communicating with each other, by talking to each other, by doing face to face, probably a new light may dawn, which the science may prove later that a new knowledge through yoga has thrown out by so many students' practices, which is almost identical. And if that comes, I think I've done a very good work.
So what does a teacher who teaches yoga actually get from the student if your level of perfection is not visible to you?
No. I think a teacher, if he is ambitious, he cannot be a teacher. So if a teacher tries to expect something to get from the student so and so, then the teacher is partial. So the mind is also compartmental. Here we have to try, as I said before, whether the highly qualified intelligent man or a dull person, what weaknesses the highly intellectual person has, if I expose and present it to a common man, the common man understands that when such intellectuals cannot understand, probably it may take time for us to understand. So in this way, a healthy education sets in. And when I show those weaknesses, they are happy in one way, that when such intellectuals cannot penetrate, we have to wait. And in that waiting, we can put them to practice more, so that their penetration is made little deeper to see. So from that one can develop automatically that equanimity can be brought later. And when the aim of yoga is samatvam yoga uchyate, equanimity not only in oneself but in the human race. So naturally I am trying this, so that what I have achieved But as I said, there is no comparative comparison because I could not have comparative studies with others. As my pupils are coming together, due to their comparative studies, the equanimity, unanimity will come, and there is really a very good and healthy understanding of friendliness and compassion comes in each individual.
You were talking about the present day students last time we talked, at least understanding a little bit of what you're saying, whereas in the past, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the massive students might not have even understood a word you said. What would you say is the difference between this period?
I think as I see today a child, even a newborn child, within few months, what intelligence that child has, we never had in our childhood. So there is an intellectual evolution that has taken place. So the new generation are definitely intellectuals compared to our period of childhood. Because we were all restricted. There was no freedom for us. Our parents used to say, you have to come before sunset. And if we have to see someone, we have to give them the exact location, place, whom we meet. Today there is a freedom for everybody. So there is a...
How is your period different from your grandchild's? I saw your grandson.
That's what I'm saying. I said we were all restricted. We had to lead a restricted life.
What is his life like now?
They're all free people. They have so much freedom. And one is freedom, and secondly, inquisitiveness. See, the inquisitiveness has increased in the younger generation. But in our time, there was no avenue to develop the inquisitiveness in us. Like keeping a prisoner in the four walls. Our parents had kept us within their four walls of their mental frame, which we could not cross over.
Which they could cope with, is it?
Yes.
One second. I have some. What is happening?
And the present day children, the parents have given them freedom. So the avenue is open. As I said before, these 5 gaze, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, is so sensitive. They are called gyanendriyas. They say senses of perceptions. So they are the gateways of knowledge. We were asked to close those doors because we were in their frame of mind. But today, we don't keep our children in our frame of mind. So we have given them little freedom. That has created inquisitiveness. So this inquisitiveness in them gives a thought for them to know each and everything as far as possible and as quick as possible. So that change is definitely
there.
there.
Mental freedom, allowing people to explore the world
Yes,
in their own
is
ways.
there. And that's why if yoga is taught, that's the advantage, the multiple channels which have been opened to them, intellectual channels. By practicing yoga, whether we can channelize their multiple energies in certain directions so that the energy is stored and they could use it for a good cause, understanding cause. So that's all what we can do for the younger generation.
I'll just tell you a little incident that I just witnessed. Your grandson was sitting at the computer and playing solitaire.
Yes.
It really surprised me, a child of that age playing solitaire on the computer.
That's what I said, they have grown. Intellectual evolution has taken place in this new generation.
And you see, therefore, a great deal of hope.
So there is a sensitivity in them, intellectual sensitivity is there. As you said that my grandson was playing. So that means intellectual sensitivity has evolved in them, and only we have to tap them in such a way that that intelligence is not made to flow in wrong directions, that's all.
So, but it does go in wrong directions.
It is
Because
possible.
of the kind
It
of
is
society
possible.
which is evolving.
It is possible. Because intellectual intoxication is there. Any person who is intellectual, he is intoxicated to some extent. A drunkard is intoxicated to drugs. A psychedelic patient takes injections and then he is in high spirit. So
what has
similarly it is here.
How has yoga helped in trying to...
Because of the focal points. Focusing the intelligence, scattered intellectual intelligence, we bring them to closer, like the rays which move from the sun in various directions. But in the early sun or the setting sun, you don't see the rays, only you see the disk of the sun. So here we want to touch the disk of the intelligence, not the rays of the intelligence, which we want to teach for the youngsters.
Okay, now I'll come down to earth a little bit more reality. We are going on Sunday to shoot in Vasai, the center where yoga is one of the elements
Father
used
Jose.
for Father Jose, for HIV patients and substances abuse patients. Now what he was saying is the intelligence of such patients is incredibly high, and perhaps this could be the reason, because of their frustration, not having the avenue or outlet, they have got into gambling, drinking, substance abuse. But you have developed a method of helping them to
See,
come out
this is,
of this.
No doubt, as I already said, that yoga is a philosophical subject. How many people in this world are interested in philosophy? Honestly, factually, this is what we have to think. We don't give, because there are so many yoga centers in the world. Speaking of samadhi, I can take you to samadhi, I can take you to this. But normal individual, in what is he interested in life? So unless and until we come to that level and understand the psychology of the majority of the human race, and then if we cannot lift them from their environments, which are like a web caught in the web. So unless we remove that web, how can we take them to spiritual leap? How can we tell them to take the zenith of yoga, samadhi, this, or equanimity of the intelligence, or oneness in intelligence, universality of human being? It's all utopian words. But how to bring this to millions and millions of people? And that's what I said. From my point, I've touched a common average individuals more than these utopian people. That's why my yoga has become very popular, because the needs of the people, if I satisfy their needs and bring them out from their pits, like snake pits. So mind has got its own pit. It forms different pits. So how to bring them from the pits so that they can see freedom, light a little more. So if we can do that so much, and that's what I did it, that I, who suffered from various illnesses, who had absolutely no education, who had no guide from anyone, but environments, circumstances made me to build up a character in me. If I could do that, do you mean to say when lots of ordinary people who have got those facilities, could they not improve far better than what they are in the present state? So from that angle only I am very particular to take yoga. I am not very keen that everybody should become a philosopher. It's impossible.
But this is possible.
This
yoga
is possible.
Is possible.
Yes. Okay, give them a little light so that they discriminate and choose what is right, what is wrong. So let them take the right path. Beyond that, I have no other interest in life, in the art of teaching.
Yoga is another very rooted physical thing, which is healing people, like Parvez. If you can tell us a little bit about healing people
Healing,
who are disabled, or giving them some relief.
Healing is an art. Science is a technique. Today the market is flooded with drugs, with various
pills. Do you mean to say health can be purchased through pills, by swallowing pills? Or health has to be sweated? If a river water, we can drink a flowing river water. Would you like to drink a lake water? Why? Why you don't drink? It's stale. But whereas the running water is fresh. So naturally there is an electricity flowing in the running water. So it gets cleansed by itself. So health is like that. Health cannot be easily defined, though it can be said that the human system, digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, excretory system, generative system should be healthy. Hormones releasing, the glands releasing hormones, glandular system, if they are all healthy, he is called healthy. But health has got three qualities. And I think science of yoga, Indian philosophers are really better thinkers. Even health may be tamasic, health may be rajasic, health may be sattvic. Just using the word health has no meaning at all. It may be a dragging health, or it may be a vibrant health where you are seeing on Sunday, as you said, that type of health where they become victims of various psychological upheavals. Then you see this equanimity, tranquility, serenity in the physical body, in the cellular system, in the organic system, in the mental system, in the intellectual system. So this we have to study. This is real health, I consider. Where the serenity from the skin to the core and from the core to the skin, each and every cell should be ringing with a bell that I am healthy, I am healthy, I am healthy. I consider that as a sattvic, pure, illuminative health. And that yoga gives.
That yoga promises.
That's why we struggle to make them to develop that illuminative health.
When you say, take this case study of Parvez, when you see that person immensely improving, and he said he has also become very artistic, he's trying things which he never dreamt of trying. How do you feel when you see the changes over 20 years?
Well, I have given the reason already. Their scattered intellectual attention is brought to a single point, and through that single point, again they have opened the rest of intelligence to go in the constructive way.
I think these people will understand.
That's how it helps.
What is the next level of passion in your life? You have achieved some up to a point, and you have not found anybody to share it with.
No,
totally,
I don't. No.
Only parts of
No,
you.
just please, I want to speak here a little bit. My guru was a very strict master. I'm only coming very close because in olden days, the gurus were testing pupils. Who is fit, who is unfit. We call patra and apatra. Sometimes they were not getting patra students at all, ripe students, so the art died with them. Many could not part their knowledge, mentioning that you are all unfit. And as I said, my guru was very strict. Even my guru never told me one day that you are a student of yoga. He told me that you are unfit to practice yoga. And that was the challenge I took it. I said, I will prove that one day that I say that I am going to be a fit student of yoga. And that's why he did not teach me, knowing very well that I was unfit. This quality, I don't want to speak of others also. There are two types of philosophers whom I have met, who live according to what they say, who say one thing and live differently. They're all intellectual giants of the world. By chance, I said I've met and I've learned from them also. Then I said whether one is ripe or unripe, it does not matter to me. What little I gain, I should part with one and all, irrespective of differences in their intellectual caliber. And I've done it. If I had not done it, today millions and millions of people would not have taken to my practice. There are other yoga places, let them count whether they have got 1 million students. But here I say, I've got millions and millions. And not only that, it's going on in their generations, whether it is India or you take in the West. Those people who did in 1970s, who were my students, 1950s who were my students, their children and grandchildren are still practicing yoga. I never taught them, but it flew in them. So that is why I say that my yoga have moved like a gigantic Ganges river in their systems. And when this knowledge flew to the third generation, fourth generation, they come closer and closer. As they come closer and closer, emotional intelligence develops in them, not a competitive intelligence. Though people may not understand, but a little later, how a yoga students of mine have developed a humane approach, not a competitive technical approach. And from that angle, I say why I have given, not measuring myself as my guru measured, saying that you are ripe, you are unripe. Sometimes they get the unripe student and they say he's a fit student, but afterwards we see they don't even continue, they leave. So I made up my mind, from the very day I started teaching yoga, I should not show this differentiation at all, whether one is intelligence or unintelligence. Let me take yoga to one and all. And that's how it became very, very popular. And though I am saying this, don't think in my heart of heart that some of the students who are better than many unrights may develop this character of maintaining their superiority complex in them. That is there in me. And in the 80th birthday, I tried to break that to a great extent. I invited students to participate, a raw beginner and a ripe practitioner. But I put them all together, so I showed the way. Probably in the next Silver Jubilee function also, I am trying to bring again unity in the way of techniques, so that they could give the technique according to the growth without disturbing their mental caliber, and how to make them humble to reach what they have not even seen.
That's why you were quite harsh with some of the experienced instructors.
Because it's my life. And at the age of 80, I have no passion. If you had asked me in the early days, yoga was unknown, and I had the Kshatriya Dharma, like a martial type, that I will make this yoga to become popular. And that passion I have fulfilled. So I do, as I said, I do poses, as you asked me in the first question, to see what is not still experienced, whether it surfaces or not. That's my passion. To see in the same poses what has been known to me, has something covered which has still not surfaced to me. So can I surface them? I think to some extent my pupils will tell you that I bring lots of new things when I stay in those poses, what comes later. And I practice even all these things because I am not saying like other yogis that I am doing for liberation. Liberation may come or may not come. It's in the hands of God. So if God considers that I am unworthy, I have to take birth. So if I take birth, from where should I start? Should I start from the scratch? So I practice so that my consciousness may hold on to these good impressions of my practice, so that if God grants me my next life, I start with the subtlest of yoga, because I have taught millions and millions of people. As everybody wants to be a better intelligent man. In all fields, if he's a cameraman, he wants to be a better cameraman. That means the instinct in each individual is to be better than what he is or what she is.
When you say next life, is it through yoga? You want to perpetuate, you have already perpetuated.
That's what I'm saying.
life.
So,
In a sense.
so as in, everybody wants to be better than what? So I want to be better than what I am in the next life. And I have taught so many people, there is a progress in them. So I may become a guide to them again, so that they can learn what is not taught in this life. This is all my passion in this life. No other ambition.
Thank you. That was very good. I will tell you my dilemma at the moment. I had come with all these things, done a lot of research, but I feel they are not necessary anymore. As you say, you've gone to another level to come down. So if you feel that you are quite happy, or you would like to say something which I have left out
No,
because
I said it.
of my...
No, the last question is good. So there I covered, so it should not be. The beauty is gone.
The beat is gone, the music is over.
Yeah.
So I also don't want to push this interview any further, because I feel this is...
It's a good, yes.
did you enjoy being
Yes,
interviewed?
yes, yes, yes. It's a good one. So you ended well. So now it doesn't look nice.
We can't go backwards.
No, the essence will gone, and only carnal will come.
I don't...
It's good, it's good. It's good.
And I just want to ask you one thing about our presence, for example, or the presence of other, or the presence of people like, promoters of yoga, because it's become a big business.
No, that's a different matter. You know,
How do you feel about this?
well, as I told you before, I had that Kshatriya Dharma in me, martial type. So, martial type is a superiority fight, to fight for superiority. I think I did for years together. I don't think that you will find another yogi in the world who has faced the camera as I have faced. I think I was even called, that he is like a film actor in the field of yoga. So if Mr. Iyengar is there, people will certainly come. If there is no Iyengar, you can't take the conference as a success. So such impression I had created that Iyengar means star is coming. So star, they call film star. For me they used to tell yoga star. Yoga star is coming. So this way I built up. And that was needed. Now voluntarily I am isolating myself. I think it's a natural growth. The natural growth, according to our Indian way of, is of the 4 ashramas. Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. I think natural tendency is there for me. I need not change dress to say that I am a sannyasi. But my mind is taking that step of renunciation. It's a natural one, as it naturally doesn't, I don't feel. So it's a natural growth. And this has made me to be voluntarily to cut off from everyone. But I'm not negative in my life, even now. Though I don't mix with people, I'm fully alert, fully active, and I live in the present. And having given this background, that the mind says that you have appeared in public a great deal. And this also grew gradually, not suddenly. It took me more than 25, 30 years for the people to know or realize that my practice is genuine. As it took so long time, and I had to exhibit, I don't think there is any yogi in the world, again I'm using that word, it's not pride, but it's a fact. So fact cannot be called as pride. Pride is when you cannot do it and then boasting. I have given 10 to 12,000 public appearances, solo, 3 hours program like an artist, without intervals. And keeping thousands of people in spellbound silence by a dry subject of yoga is not an easy thing. I learned how to present, in which angle if I present these poses, it will be attractive to people. That's another side of the subject. So having given so many demonstrations, which I say is a direct knowledge to the viewers. And that is the reason why they took to yoga more. Because others only write books, and by book one but here they could see a man doing it, so they were attracted. And I carried. And naturally, that zeal has faded or is fading further and further. So I have to be grateful to you people now. Because as I'm isolated, I was giving performances 2, 3 a day, sometimes even 4 I have given, at stretch, 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours like that. So I was in the public. But today, I am voluntarily isolating from the public. And if people like you, who love yoga, I live in yoga, but you love yoga. So living in yoga is different and loving in yoga is different. Living in yoga cannot be carried to the masses. I live in yoga now, so I can't. Previously I was loving and living. Because there was a love, that's why I could give a performance. Today, that love has gone. So I live in yoga, and living in yoga, I cannot do anything beyond people saying, see what I do, practice, and see, go away. So naturally, the isolated work what I am doing now, if it catches the public, the credit goes to you people. Without you now, yoga cannot be made known to the people, because I'm fading, I'm disappearing. Naturally I want to come out like the tree which grows gradually and gives plenty of fruits and then naturally it dries out. So I want to be like that I was in the public, I was in the front line. Now I want people to forget me when I'm still alive. So that is why I got isolated myself. And if what you are doing, I say is a creditable thing. And I think this is the only way now I can present myself, because people do not know, and you may say that it was, collected in such and such a year. So there ends the matter. But the fire of yoga, if it has to be burned in the hearts of the people like you only can do that, as I have withdrawn. So I am grateful to you for doing this job.
Thank you. Well, when I met you last time, I said that he's withdrawing from this public life internally.
Yes, internally.
Okay, thank you.
So even for me, I made the same profession as my hobby, which others cannot do it. They try find some other hobbies. For me, yoga alone, I have changed into a hobby. That's why I stay longer and longer as a hobby.
That's the best way to do it.
Thank you. God bless you.